stablecoins are a very important rail, but they are important insofar as they bring value to the user. If we can't articulate how they're bringing value, then what the fuck are we doing this for?
So you're almost a year in now. Crypto and stablecoins continue to take off. Do you regret selling to Stripe?
That is something that would have taken us 8 years to build, and we've done it in a year.
All right, I'm here at Stripe Sessions, and they just made their largest ever international product announcement. So I'm here to talk to Henri, founder and CEO of Privy, about that. So let's go on in and meet him. Good to see you, man.
You too.
So Stripe's biggest ever international product announcement, Privy accounts. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
So not to be a wet blanket, I question the premise. I think, we announced treasury yesterday. We announced a number of agentic things. How do you define international?
You guys framed it.
So the reality is we're building global money rails, and I think stablecoins are a huge part of how we can enable bigger global businesses. And the goal of digital asset accounts is to bring together. Wallet used to mean key management. It used to mean how do I securely store assets, and then call a number of fairly esoteric, like RPC calls, have to manage gas and so on and so forth. What we found as we work with increasingly large customers, as we work with multinationals and fintechs, when we work with folks like Ramp and Klarna and Gusto, is that they actually need a lot more from their wallets. They need a way to store assets, sure, but they also need a way to transact, a way to earn on top of the assets, a way to trade, a way to... And so digital asset accounts brings together all of these components in one API, so you can actually build with stablecoins without having to become a crypto expert yourself. So it is the sort of sublimation, hopefully, of a core primitives, which is how do we build with crypto much more easily so that we can build global businesses.
Yeah, and so you've started with the core primitive of balance, and I think you've integrated a bunch more now into one single thing. At time of the acquisition being announced, I think you had about 75 million wallets now. Last number was disclosed was north of 100 million.
Yeah.
What has accounted for that difference? You talked about more sophisticated use cases, and maybe the ones I'm most interested in is Stripe now enables any merchant to have native balances.
How do you value a wallet? There's the number of total wallets, there's the number of total funded wallets, there's the average size of wallets, there's how much activity they're doing. But again, stablecoins are a money rail like any other. They can be used in a plethora of ways. So we have folks who are now
and there's so many different customer archetypes too. There could be small businesses, large merchants, global merchants, consumers. And that's what I'm also curious about is not just the number of wallets, but what the archetypes of your customers look like today versus almost a year ago.
Exactly. So it's changed entirely. Our customer mix has really evolved where we serve and we continue to serve really dynamic crypto native businesses. These are the likes of Uniswap or Hyperliquid, Hyperliquid is a company based in Singapore that's done over $1 trillion in volume, building the sort of canonical perps exchange in the world that today is doing things.
It's arguably maybe one of the most successful crypto companies that a lot of people haven't heard of.
Ever, yeah.
And highest revenue count per employee
in the world, I believe.
That's what you see floating around if it's true,
No, and they're doing a lot of work now as well on enabling marketplaces for non-crypto assets, for commodities and so on and so forth. And so we continue to serve that segment, which is overall a more crypto native, more trading focused segment. We increasingly are serving fintechs. And so these are companies that go everywhere from enabling global money rails, B2B business accounts, payroll, and so on and so forth. And then we're seeing increasingly pick up in marketplaces, sort of creator payouts and the like. And so I think we have now just much larger customers, a lot of institutions, including in TradFi, using this infrastructure. And we're seeing just much larger balances spread across this. But you can think of Privy's core products as, on the one side, user wallets, where as a business you want to give every user a wallet. So for example, Gusto is using us to enable payouts to global contractors. If you're getting paid out by a company in Nigeria and you want to be able to get paid out in stablecoins, you can now do so even if you never had a crypto wallet before. And that's a different use case than, say, how Ramp uses us.
And that's what I wanted to ask about. You talked Hyperliquid's like a crypto native company. Gusto, someone familiar with. Ramp, though, is super interesting. So what are the things you're doing on the Ramp partnership?
So they're building out basically business accounts that are going to help fuel and continue to accelerate their international expansion. And it is a way for them to really create business accounts that can receive stablecoins, that can be used to manage stablecoins, that can pay out in stablecoins, but it's a way to really run your business on these digital assets.
Yeah, I think a lot of people, when they think of wallets, they initially think of like wallets for entities, like one person to transfer another person. But actually, a lot of what you guys are doing, I think, is allowing companies to transfer money within, but maybe across borders. So tell us a little bit about how Stripe is doing that by allowing everyone to have wallets, but also even some of the things Ramp is doing is on that front too.
Yeah, I think the third one is, there's P2P, B2C, B2B, and then there's internal to one business treasury management. I have multiple subsidiaries around the world. I don't want to have to hold capital reserves in each currency. I can use cloud money more or less, and then beam it down to the appropriate fiat as needed to power my operations in a given country. And the cool thing is that a lot of how we're integrating within Stripe mirrors the customers that we have. So Stripe announced yesterday that Link can hold stablecoins. That is a consumer product that can hold balances in crypto. Likewise, Stripe Treasury enables any business to hold fiat and stablecoins side by side. It uses the same tech underneath to power basically stablecoin asset controls. So that's a lot of what we're seeing is really just wider use of these rails. A lot of it today is about cross-border. And increasingly in various countries, it's also about setting up accounts that can earn yield and be used as savings accounts and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I think you also now have made it easier to natively earn yield on top of the Morpho protocol. DeFi yield to me used to sound like very good way to lose your money. Why is this version of DeFi yield with Morpho and some of the things they're doing not, I'm just going to lose all my money?
I mean, I think, the last few months, we've seen a number of misconfigurations in some of these systems that lead to the space is still maturing, and I think it's still early in many ways. I think the exciting thing about the constructs that we've picked is that you choose what's called a vault curator to manage the assets on your behalf, but you can work with Apollo, for example, and with traditional market makers and asset managers to do these things. And really, this is a way to manage digital assets, but it's not automated asset management per se. It's a way of connecting intermediaries in a system.
I would also say a lot of the DeFi that lost money was actually CeFi, like LARPing as DeFi. And so this is actually true DeFi, which sounds scarier, but is in fact, if you have like a well-defined protocol that you can audit, much better than a lot of the things that did collapse.
And I think that's the danger, by the way, as the market anneals in crypto and becomes more mature, is like everyone is kind of LARPing as the most popular version of the thing. And so this is, plague crypto, which is a lot of it gets a bad rap because of a few actors that are acting completely irresponsibly.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're almost a year in now. You've made a lot of progress, learned a lot of things. Crypto and stablecoins continue to take off. Do you regret selling to Stripe?
No. I think the bottom line is this. We set out to build a system that enabled anyone to have more ownership over their assets, be it a business or a consumer. It was also always very clear that that this is a customer, someone from Klarna told me this once, and it stuck, which is Privy needs friends. And the point is, the wallet as the control plane is extremely powerful, but it needs to work alongside orchestration. It needs to work alongside fiat. It needs to work alongside card issuing. And this is why, by the way, I'm so excited about
you have to have an ecosystem to drive adoption.
And I think the point is this.
It's hard to bootstrap that as a Series A, B company at the time.
We're a Series B company. We had, we had term sheets, we had offers for acquisition, and the question was, how long will it take us to do the things that we want? And there's a lot of DoorDash is now using these rails to pay out, to pay folks out globally. That is something that would have taken us 8 years to build, and we've done it in a year. So that feels very exciting to me.
I could imagine an exciting moment for you too was when Stripe's like, look, we're going to give any global merchant the ability to have these wallets as well. That's just a distribution layer that also would have been so hard. And you're not even selling DoorDash. It's just like, okay, Stripe globally.
So it's four things. It's one, Stripe has people want to work with Stripe in a deep way. Stripe has put so much care and craft into their products. And so just our overall life in putting out our product has become easier because people are excited in a way where it just makes everything smoother. Two, distribution and having access to customers who can really just inflect the space by being in it and being able to help shepherd them into how can you use this to really good effect to build better experiences for your users. Three is on the talent side. Stripe has been hugely helpful in helping us scale a lot of both our operations and parts of our tech. And then I think four is, I think there's a very healthy tension to be had between a crypto native mindset and a pragmatic mindset of how do we just build better products. And that's something that we've had internally at Privy pre-acquisition, and that's something that we continue to have with Stripe post-acquisition. But obviously, Stripe is like putting a lot of weight behind these efforts. Like stablecoins are a very important rail, but they are important insofar as they bring value to the user. If we can't articulate how they're bringing value, then what the fuck are we doing this for?
Yeah, I feel like Stripe's involvement in the ecosystem with the acquisition of Privy and of Bridge has probably pulled forward the roadmap in the space by 6 months, 12 months, which maybe sounds like a little, but is actually quite a lot.
What you're saying is only true insofar as we continue to ship with customers. Yeah. So that's what we have to keep working on.
Yeah, don't stop. Keep up the work. Last question, same question I asked of Zach at Bridge. Who's smarter, John or Patrick?
What did he say?
He laughed and then I think dodged the question.
It's a smart man. I think you'd have to define intelligence for me in much deeper ways than you have with the question for me to answer it.
Yeah. So how he answered the question was he went to them for different things. Is that true?
I think they're very different. I think they operate in very different ways, and in that sense, they're extraordinarily good complements. I think the question of who's smarter, I don't know, but certainly I agree with his take, which is I think they come together across sort of tactics and strategy from very different angles.
Yeah. And so what's your answer then in terms of which one do you navigate to with which kinds of questions?
I think John has I'm sweating now. I think John has a very instinctual sort of process and I guess instinct for what should happen.
Yeah.
Comms, finance, money work generally. I think Patrick is very thoughtful about both where the world is headed and how products should be shaped in order to meet the moment that we're moving towards. And so I think I spend a lot of time with Patrick and with Will working on product things.
Yep.
And I think John is able to think about how is the world going to embrace this in a very different way.
Who's funnier?
Probably John.
That's an easier question. Or it was for Zach.
But
yeah. They're in different ways too. Awesome. Well, thanks so much for coming on, and I look forward to hearing the next set of announcements and what you guys are up to.
Awesome.
All right. Cheers.